Nadia taped the paper to the plastic cauldron and held it there with her thumb until the tape learned its job. The marker letters were tall, black, and cheerful. Take 1. Happy Halloween. There were 2 bags of mini chocolate bars under the sink, if she needed a reload, but she doubted she would. Birch Lane had gotten older in the last few years. The cul-de-sac had traded soccer nets for sedans and inflatable ghosts for compost bins. Even the maple at the corner had decided in September that it was done and dropped all its leaves in one dramatic shrug. Low lift, she told the empty room out of habit. She and Luca had always narrated their laziness like it was strategy. Let the children take the candy, we'll take the couch. The couch had one end with a dent that used to be Luca's. She set her phone there, screen up, doorbell app open. The porch camera held its square of blue twilight, railings with flaking paint, the skeleton flamingo in the planter, the bowl with its sign. The porch light glowed a butter coin over the door. Nadia settled with a blanket and a mug of something chamomile that always tasted like mown lawn to her, and hit the volume button so the doorbell's chime wouldn't make her jump. The first kids came early. A pair of pirates with fake beards, already unraveling, a cow with a felt udder dragging like a misplaced tail. They shuffled up the 3 steps, read the sign out loud, and obeyed it with the sacred solemnity children have for instructions written by markers. Take 1, said the cow, as if invoking a spell. They each took one. They did not press the doorbell. They waved at the camera with the distracted politeness children reserve for gods they know are watching. Nadia waved back even though it was ridiculous. When the doorbell app's little bubble showed their father waiting on the sidewalk, ducking, his head into his scarf against the wind, she felt a pain so clean it felt like being cold. Last Halloween, Luca had been a witch with a hat so floppy it brushed his shoulders when he bowed to toddlers. He'd made her carve the pumpkin with 2 teeth missing so it looked like it had survived something. He'd gone out for more candy at 8 when they'd run out because she had written, "Take 2," as a joke, and then refused to admit she'd done it because she disliked failure even when it was candy-related. He had said, "Be back in 10," and the grocery was 3 blocks, and then there had been police tape in yellow stripes and a crumpled bike, and the impact that happened somewhere else and in her chest at once, and the hateful paperwork phrase later, "hit and run while crossing." The bowl that night had emptied itself like an hourglass. The porch camera had caught a lot of small capes. Nadia sipped her tea. Outside it had gotten properly dark. The row of houses did their small domestic astronomy, kitchen windows bright, living rooms warm planets, porch lights like moons announcing, "Yes, here you may ring." She never opened the door anymore. The thought made her stomach tear like cheap paper. She liked the bowl because it let her be generous without being seen. The app chimed once. "Person detected at your door." Nadia glanced at the screen and saw nothing but her porch. She frowned. Wind could set it off. So could the neighbor's cat, if it felt like doing crimes. The bowl moved. Not much. A nudge as if a hand had brushed it. The sign rippled as if something had exhaled nearby. "Probably the wind," she said. But the living room denied that it was windy. The maple branches were slow and resting. The street a black ribbon with one candy wrapper fluttering like a small embarrassed flag. Kids came in clusters after that. Someone had a light-up mask that pulsed at a rate that made Nadia's eyes tighten. A girl with cardboard bat wings asked the camera if the skeleton flamingo could have a name. Nadia typed into the app with thumbs suddenly too big. "Sir Peck." The girl laughed, took one, and ran. Between visitors, the camera fed her the quiet, and it was a kind of kindness. The silence came with a hum, the gentle drawl every mic gives to the lie of perfect quiet. Under it, the house breathed through vents. Cars passed at a distance like faraway whales, and somewhere a party with bass that plucked at the ribs of the night was happening for other people. At 7:26, the app chimed again. Person detected. No. Person. Just the bowl. The bowl had been fuller a minute ago. It now looked exactly the same. Nadia had counted without knowing she had counted. 3 small caramel bars on top, 2 dark chocolates half unwrapped like coy shoulders, 1 lollipop with its stick at an angle like a conductor's baton. The arrangement had not changed, and yet the bowl had less weight in its look. She told herself she was being strange because this was the date, and human brains were engines that could burn any fuel. She muted the chime, turned on a show, and then turned it off because dialogue felt like someone interrupting. She opened the group chat for Birch Lane that she had learned to treat like background noise. Hannah 612. PSA. The bigger kids are out. Now. 2 boys in scream masks were grabbing handfuls from Lila's. Leela 611. No violence detected. They flinched when I yelled, "Respect the economy." David 608. The lab was a wizard. He took his own treat and distributed to others. I cried. Celia 603. Who has the haunted coffin on their porch? It's doing a weird recording. My littlest got freaked out. Nadia frowned. There was no haunted coffin on Birch as far as she knew. Hannah 612. Celia, do you mean the bowl with the sign? Celia 603. No, a coffin. On the walkway. It said, "Take one," in a whisper and then in my voice. But we were near the cul-de-sac. Maybe from the other street? Nadia rubbed the back of her neck. The app chimed again, though she'd muted it. On the screen, the camera showed the bowl still and the sign still. The porch light boring its clean cone. Nadia turned up her phone's volume to see if the app would obey that. That was when she heard so quietly she might have been inventing it. Take one. It wasn't a voice. Not at first. It was a shape the mic made to fill a gap. The way mics will sculpt anything into anything to pretend the world is continuous. It was like wind in a bottle, a breath holding a word like a coin in a closed fist. Take one. The hair on Nadia's forearms rose. She let out a laugh that had too much metal in it. Everything says take one tonight, she told herself. Stickers, signs, jokes, people in costumes, echoes. She switched to another view on the app. The backyard, the side gate cam, the street cam. The backyard was doing leaf moonlight. The side gate showed nothing but the slat shadow of the neighbor's fence. The street view caught a procession of teenagers doing a slow-motion swagger. Nothing with a voice. When she went back to the porch, view, the sign said, "Take one and leave." When Nadia blinked hard. The ampersand had been drawn with her marker in a loop she didn't make. The leave one was not her handwriting. The angle of the letters was wrong. The S had prongs like forks. She set the mug down too fast and spilled and didn't mop it. She went to the door and opened it to the chain. Cold came in like a polite dog. The sign still said, "Take one. Happy Halloween," in marker. Her marker. The "and leave one" did not exist in the air, only on the camera's little eye. She closed the door. On her phone, the sign on the screen changed again. Leave what you have. Take what you need. Her mouth went dry. No, she told the phone, ridiculous. No, thank you. The bowl did not respond, because of course, bowls never do. The camera hummed softly to itself. Nadia put the phone face down on the couch and sat in the dark with her hand on the soft square where Luca's weight used to press. Kids still came. She could hear them, their feet drum-thudding the steps, voices high and hyped, someone with a cape tripping and swearing and then apologizing for swearing. The doorbell didn't chime. The respectful ones obeyed the sign and left it at that. It was a good system. It worked. She held on to that thought like a handle. When she picked up the phone again 20 minutes later, there was a new message in the Birch chat. Celia 603. Anyone else hear the weird whisper? My kid said the bowl told him to leave a secret. He told it he peed his pants today and now he's fine. Lol. I'm calling it magic. David 608. Our wizard lab accepted a stale pretzel. He looked inside the bowl for a long time. Then he wagged his tail at nothing. So yes, if magic, then canine friendly. Lila 611. Not loving it. The whisper sounded like my mother. She's been dead since May. We're going inside. Nadia scrolled up to the top of the chat to photos from earlier. Pink-cheeked kids and porch steps and a plastic skeleton reclining like a thriving corpse. She set the phone down again and told herself to stand up, to simply go outside and lift the bowl and bring it in. She would shut off the porch light and pin a note to the door that said, "Happy Halloween. No more candy." That would end it. It felt like a spell where the counterspell was do a normal thing. She went to the door. Her fingers remembered how to work the deadbolt. She stepped onto the porch and felt the night as something with a back. A great shape lying down over the neighborhood, heavy and attentive. The bowl looked normal. The sign looked normal. The wind was nothing. The quiet was a coin you could spend. Nadia bent and picked up the bowl. Something whispered, as close as if it were under her sternum. "Leave." 1. Nadia looked around at the empty street because that's what people do when they pretend they didn't hear something inside their own bones. The maple creaked. The neighbor's cat slid under a car like a thrown scarf. Somewhere the bass party changed songs. Nadia looked down at the bowl she held. It weighed more than it did before. She went back inside. She set the bowl on the dining table. It hummed. Not audibly, the way a bruise hums when you press it. She took the sign out and put it on the table too. It said, "Take one," like a harmless dare. She went to the drawer with odds and ends and took out a penny, an elastic band, a movie ticket stub from 3 summers ago. She put the penny in the bowl. It felt small and stupid and exactly right. The bowl went warmer against her palms. She took the penny back out. The bowl cooled a little. She put the elastic band in. The bowl pulsed once. She took the band out. She put the old movie ticket in. The bowl hummed and then the ticket, impossible, childish, wasn't a ticket anymore. It was a little triangle of glossy paper with Luca's laugh printed on it, sound somehow made visible. That squint-eyed, shoulder-losing laugh he did when something stupid happened to a cake on TV. Nadia's cold went all the way to her wrists. "Leave one," the knot voice said again. "What?" Nadia asked, and she meant it. "What one?" The bowl did what bowls do, reflected a little yellow window light and waited. The doorbell, which she had muted, chimed anyway. On the screen, a tiny vampire with a plastic collar and his father, apologetic. The boy had his fist jammed against his mouth like he'd been eating it. His eyes, unfairly large, found the camera's small god. "Please," he said to Nadia through the app or to the bowl or to anyone who had a sign in them. I lost my words," the father supplied gently. He has these moments. Name," the boy said miserably, and Nadia felt it hit somewhere behind her breastbone, a clack like teeth meeting. "Sometimes my name goes away. It scares me. Mom says it's okay." Nadia opened the door, without checking with herself about whether she could. The cold hit like water on a sunburn and she welcomed it. "Hi," she said like a human. "Would you like a candy?" The boy nodded, relief flooding him so fast he wobbled. He took one from the bowl on the table with careful reverence and did not look at the sign because his eyes were busy being brave. He unwrapped it with the practiced focus of a child and put it in his mouth and said around the chocolate, "I'm Max." The father exhaled. "Thank you," he said, and meant thank you for giving him a thing to do while his fear reset. He squeezed Max's shoulder. "Say thank you." "Thanks," Max said solemnly, as if she had taught him the word again by saying it. He went down the steps holding his cape out like it could be depended on. When the door closed, the bowl was warmer. The bowl was humming so softly the app thought the house had a refrigerator on the porch. Nadia turned the sign over. The back was blank. "Leave one," the bowl said, in the same knot voice that had borrowed the shape of Max's relief. Nadia thought of Luca going back in 10, and all the years she would now carry that sentence, the way you carry a fragile plate that will never be set down. "Leave one what?" The bowl made the sound of breath-made word. "Welcome." A knock at the back of her teeth. A shape like, we take when you leave your doors lit and your hearts propped open with bowls. You ask, us to. You put signs out, you make your houses say, yes, we come to help the exchange along. None of those were words, the bowl said. They were the understanding you get the way you know where your keys are in the dark. Leave one, the bowl said again. And Nadia, who had been careful not to make deals with the emptiness for a whole year, heard herself say, I'll leave a story. The bowl waited. She sat. She wrapped the blanket around her shoulders without noticing she had done it. She told the dining room the story of the time the lake had been glass and she and Luca had walked in up to their knees in January because they were fools or young, and yet in that moment had believed the word invincible. She told it the story of the time they had listened to trick-or-treaters pretend bravery at their fog machine and had cheered the small ones like a tennis crowd. She told it the stupid story of the cake on TV and how Luca had laughed so hard something old and clenched in her had given way like ice in the gutter. When she was done, the bowl was warm enough to call hot. Her cheeks ached. Her tongue tasted like pennies. Take one, the bowl said, and Nadia whispered back, What? What you need. The not voice answered simply. Nadia reached into the bowl. Her fingers met candy, then paper, then heat, then something that was not any of those things. A surface like a hand that had never been a hand, the shape of shape itself. It felt like a heartbeat does, when you find it under somebody's ribs and put your ear to it as if you could memorize it. She pulled out a ring. It was simple. Steel with a scratch that looked like a comet. Luca had worn it when he remembered, and put it on the kitchen windowsill when he cooked because he said it found its way into tomato sauce otherwise. It had not been on his finger when she'd identified him by his shoe. It had not been anywhere afterward. Nadia held it, and the living room tilted by the smallest degree as if somewhere a suitcase had been set down. She put the ring on, not in the way you put on jewelry, but in the way you put on a seatbelt, and tell yourself it helps. She breathed, and the breath didn't scrape. The bowl cooled a little. It held the place in the air that laughter leaves when it goes away. The doorbell chimed again. She flinched and swore and then answered it with new clumsiness. On the screen, a teenager in a hoodie too thin for the night. He had no bag, no costume, no plan for his face. He picked up the sign and read it and put it down. He took one candy. He hesitated. He took nothing else. He seemed to consider something and then decided not to and walked away with the specific gait of the not welcome. Nadia opened the door. Hey, she said, and hated the wobble in it. You can leave something if you want. I don't know if it helps, but you can. He didn't turn. He shook his head a little. Then he stopped and did turn. His eyes had less in them than was safe. I'm supposed to leave town tomorrow, he said, like he was practicing. I don't know if I want to. I'm scared. My mom's boyfriend. He stopped. Do you need me to leave candy? I don't have any. No, Nadia said, because leave one did not always mean sugar. Leave a plan. He looked at the bowl as if it might have a clipboard. Okay, he said. I will go to my aunt's. Tonight. She said I could. I will go. The words came out with the creak of a hinge being used after a winter. He nodded at the bowl like it had hurt him. Thanks, he said, and his mouth learned the shape of the word, like it might want to say it again. The bowl was warm again, the ring on Nadia's finger pressed against her knuckle like a friend's hand. It went on like that. Children who needed the permission of a sign, adults who pretended they were only accompanying them, but who read the sign and laid a coin, or a broken key or a lie they were tired of on the invisible scale between porch and dark. Some got only candy and the small righteousness of not taking two. Some walked away adjusting something in their faces as if a helmet had been put on straight. At 9:54, the street thinned to teenagers with the disappointed restlessness of night not delivering. The wind picked up enough to move the inflatable. Grim Reaper on 611 like a ferrying saint. The base party broke up. Cars spilled out and crawled away. Nadia picked up the bowl and stood there with it in her hands, feeling the heat of it in her bones, and said, into her empty house, What did you take last year? The bowl hummed, and the not voice didn't bother to pretend it had borrowed a human mouth for this because it didn't need one. You left your light on. He left his bowl. We walked through. You took him, she said. You don't get to use we like that if you mean you. We are doors. You open us. Not hurt, not cruel. Just a fact, like the way October happens to everything that thinks it has time. Nadia sat with the bowl, her blanket cape sliding off her shoulders unnoticed. If I turn my light off forever, she asked, does the world get smaller? The bowl waited. I can't, she said. I can't turn it off. The bowl warmed again at that. She imagined a street measured in small yeses, the way kids map neighborhoods with porch lights and generosity, and whose parents are good with peanut allergies. She imagined becoming the changeless house at the end that never opened for anyone, even in emergencies that held its dark like a grudge. She could not be that house even if it would save her from doors she did not understand. Then you owe me a trade, she told the bowl, and the word trade felt exactly right in her mouth, as if she had been born for commerce with darkness. I left stories, I left fear, I left a year without breaking, you leave me one of mine. The bowl listened the way only inhuman things can, without breath. Then the porch light flickered. The app chimed, though she had not touched it. On the screen, the porch appeared as if viewed through water. The skeleton flamingo turned its head, in a motion the stake could not do. The maple leaned in, leaves making a sentence. The door behind her, the kitchen, everything went a fraction dimmer. Careful, Nadia said, to the air, to the bowl, to whatever had decided to help her. She reached into the bowl. Her hand went through candy, through warmth, through a surface like breath held before a dive. She closed her fist around something soft and pale, something that resisted like paper not wanting to be crumpled. She pulled. She pulled up a rubber wristband. Blue with white letters. Run for Lupus on one side, Luca on the other. He had worn it until the letters had gone from crisp to cloud. He had joked he ran only when chased but wore the band because someone asked him to care, and he did, which meant he wore everything anyone ever asked him to carry until his pockets sagged. Nadia held the band. The room steadied as if a hand had settled on its shoulder. A sound happened she had learned she could survive seeing, and she put it in the bowl, and the bowl hummed, and when she took it back out it was a blank piece of printer paper that smelled faintly of lavender, as if someone had been leaning over it making lists of ordinary errands. At 11:59 the street was empty. The party was over everywhere. The wind pressed a bit at the windows and then apologized. Nadia flipped the porch light off, not in refusal, but in closure. She set the bowl back on the table. The ring on her hand clicked on the wood. The bowl was no warmer than a hand now. The sign on the table beside it had changed one last time. Thank you. She touched the letters and they felt like marker, and also like the underside of a tongue that had learned to speak. She put the sign in the drawer with the batteries and the unused keys and the scissors that never worked when she needed them. She sat down and fell asleep, with her hand still in the bowl like a child, proving she had not let go. In the morning, she woke with a stiff neck and the sound of crows holding a meeting. The bowl held only a few candies like an ordinary defeat. She went out on the porch in her robe and waved at David 608, walking a very proud wizard lab. He waved back and pretended not to notice her hair as if it were a sensitive subject. The street looked like a shipwreck of wrappers and glitter. Someone had stolen the Grim Reaper's head. Its body slumped like a tuxedo without the date. Nadia picked the skeleton flamingo up off its side and put it right. Sir Peck, she told it. Good job. In the quiet. From the vents, from the wires, from the place behind her ribs where the worst night lives, there was the faintest echo. Welcome. She went inside. She made coffee. She put the blue wristband on and it looked like something a teenager would sneer at, and she loved it as if it were spun from his laughter. When she passed the bowl on the table, she dropped in a folded piece of paper with a story scribbled on it. The one about the puddle shaped like a stocking and the way it had held the sky. She took a single dark chocolate because she could, and because the sign on her chest now said "Take one" in a handwriting that had become partly hers. That night she left the porch light off. Not forever. just until it was time again to prop the door open and say yes. Halloween is not one night. It is the agreement you make with the dark that you will keep the light around if it agrees to be interesting. Before bed, she checked the, porch camera out of habit. In the grainy grayscale, a school bus went by with no children in it and turned the corner and was gone. The bowl on the table was still. The sign in the drawer did not change. On the street, in the part of the screen that always looked like nothing, a shape paused the way the night pauses when it wants to be polite and then moved on, having decided that this house had paid in full for the year. Nadia lay down on the dented end of the couch and stared up where the ceiling holds shadows after sunset. In the quiet, something low and patient in the bones of the house answered a question she had not yet asked. "We will keep a door for you." She smiled into the blanket. "Leave one for me then," she murmured and slept, and the night took exactly one and left one, and it was fair. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and would like more stories.